Now, the question is, you may be thinking, why should I drink from the cup of sorrow? Why should I go through the pain, the hurt, the heartache, the misery maybe of drinking from my cup of sorrow? It's a great question, and I'll give you 3 reasons if you're taking notes. The first reason I believe that we should drink from our own cup of sorrow is because you will feel better sooner. That's a country words, don't worry about it. You'll feel better sooner. It's not grammatically correct either. Contrary to popular belief, if we deal with our pain, our sorrow, our bad feelings, it doesn't last longer or get worse. It's actually the inattention to our bad feelings and our sorrow that prolongs and makes them worse. I think James is a perfect example of why we should address our sorrow as soon as we can. James 5:16, it says, "Therefore confess your sins to one another and pray for one another." Why? So that you may be healed. Circle, underline. The urgent request of a righteous person is very powerful in its effect. Now, the word heal there is not a salvation or a pardoning of sins. It's not that I come to you and say, hey, here's my struggle, my pain, my sin, give me salvation. It's not, hey, here's my pain, my sorrow, my sin, can you pardon it? It is a true spiritual and emotional healing. It takes place. When I was 11 or 12-ish, maybe last year, I was 11 or 12, there were those moments in my life where I thought I was Superman or Spider-Man or Batman. Anybody have that growing up? And I was with a friend of mine. He just got a new go-kart. And so we were riding it down the road in front of his house. Now, let me define the road and keep this in your memory. It's going to come back. The road was one of those country roads, a lot of dirt, gravel, broken up rocks, maybe some concrete. And I don't know what it was, but they kind of poured this black stuff over on top of it, and they called it a road. So we were going down. Now, I'm on the back of this go-kart. The motor's next to me. I'm kind of squatting down and holding on to my friend's seat. He's driving. We're going down the road, and I had this great Superman idea. I said, hey, I want you to speed up, and I'm going to jump off. And I knew it was a great idea because when I said it, he goes, awesome. And so he sped up, and I jumped off. Now, for the first 2 steps, I was Superman. Somewhere in between that 3rd step and the 4th step, momentum, gravity, all of those things we learned in science about objects in motion, it came into play. And there I went, like a little ball. And so what happened is I took a chunk of my knee. I still don't have a chunk of my knee. I took a chunk of my knee. It was just out, just ripped open my elbows. I mean, it was bad. And I remember my friend, he stopped, and he was like, awesome. And I was just like, I might better get home. So I walk home. My mom's an RN, so I walk home. My mom and dad are sitting on the front porch, and she just goes, what happened to you? And I told her the story, and she said, well, you're not Superman. But I remember her saying, sit down, we have to clean and address this wound. And I remember she went in the house, she came back out, she had some stuff, but the one thing she did have, which was really important, she had a little towel, and she wrapped it up, and she said, bite down on this. So she starts messing with it, picking out that road I was telling you about, the grit, the dirt. Yeah, it was bad. But she didn't say when I walked up, she didn't say, well, we'll get that later. Supper's on the table. We'll get it after supper. Or I got to go to work. I'll get it after work. She said, let's address it now. Did it hurt? Oh, it hurt. And it took 2 months to heal up. I have a nice scab and a scar. But it did heal because we addressed it as soon as we could. And maybe today in here, you haven't addressed your pain, your sorrow. I would encourage you, if nothing else, admit it in your own thoughts. If nothing else, admit it to yourself, your pain and your sorrow.